Okay, so today I'm going to do a tutorial on my Alaskan Arctic Fox individual laser kit. So this will come looking like this for you. Here's all the applique pieces in the back, and you've got your pattern and all of your backgrounds and bindings and stuff like that in the front. One of the things that I like to tell people is to make sure that your kit has a pattern. They all generally sell with a pattern, but occasionally there might be one without, or on my website you can order with or without a pattern. Now, if you order one without a pattern, just know that you will need a pattern for doing your arrangement. So if you've already bought a pattern somewhere else, you can order the one without a pattern. If you have already made a kit and you're just wanting a second kit, you can then order one without a pattern, but make sure the first one you get includes a pattern because it is extremely important. And sometimes people think, maybe I could do this without a pattern. You're going to quickly find that you need a pattern. Okay, so here's my kit, and inside, beside your pattern, you also have this little page here, and this just talks a little bit about the applique. So if you look on the back, it talks about the pre-cut kits that I use permanent bond fusible light steam 2 as the permanent bond fusible, that you can, if you have questions about the fusible webbing, or if you're wanting to use it on your own to trace and cut out your own, you can go to the tips page on my website, and I go through step by step on how to do that. Letting you know that all of these appliques that are laser cut have been pre-washed to get rid of excess dye. Things that are not appliques, so everything you're seeing here, your bindings, your borders, your backgrounds, those have not been pre-washed. So you should always pre-wash them, and you'll see in your pattern, the first step of all my patterns is to pre-wash your fabrics. So with batiks, they often have a lot of excess dye, especially these called solid batiks. Prints aren't as bad, but they'll still need to do a little shrinking. And so rinsing your fabrics with hot water in the sink is enough to see if they're bleeding really badly. And if so, keep rinsing them till that water runs clear, and then throw it in your dryer. The dryer is going to shrink everything up, and then you're good to go. You've gotten rid of any worry of bleeding, and you've gotten rid of any worry of weird shrinking if someday you need to wash one of these. Okay, using the appliques. So in this kit, you might notice when you look here, some of them have been folded, and I'm actually going to put this exact kit off to the side because I have one that I have disassembled, and here is one of those pieces that has been folded. So what I'm saying here in this little paper is that if you have any that have been folded packaging, they can be gently ironed flat on low heat to get rid of that crease. You don't have to do that. The crease is primarily in the paper, and when you peel that paper off, it's going to kind of go away anyhow. But if it bothers you, or if it's fine, you're finding it to be irritating, you can take your iron, make sure your iron is not on a high heat. You want it just kind of a medium to low heat, and just gently press down on that crease just for a second or two. Not even, like about a second, and lift it up, and that is enough to get rid of the crease for me. If it's really bothering, you can try it a little bit more in the back, but again, don't put more than about that much heat on it when you're doing this step, because when you peel this paper off, that crease is already going to go away mostly, and you don't want to accidentally overheat your glue. Now see, on this one, my paper is staying folded. My fabric is actually releasing from the paper and unfolding on its own. And I'm not going to try to put heat on this one because I don't want to accidentally put heat or put my iron on this exposed glue. So this one, I'm just going to leave it alone. It doesn't bother me so much. And you might notice on this side where this applique is, once the paper's removed, the crease is really hardly there at all. And once I iron it, you won't see it at all. So if you have some that bother you, you can definitely do that part, but just be careful you don't end up accidentally getting one of those appliques stuck to your iron. So the next thing you'll want to do is label all your pieces. I love using these kind of mechanical pencils because they keep a nice sharp point. And you'll take your pattern, insert, and you'll notice that the pattern has one side that is the layout guide and one side that is all the appliques. So another reason why you need that pattern, you want to go through and label everything. So here's all my applique pieces. And if you notice again, like here's the white, here's all these pieces. Now, I want to label. This is number one. Number one, all these pieces down here, I've already labeled them all. I usually keep everything kind of in the group it is, unless it is a weird shape to where I'd be wasting seam and fabric when I cut them. So you might notice on this particular piece, his tail has been flipped over here. And that's just so that we don't have this huge extra waste. Costs more money, and I'm sure you guys would love me to not waste money so I don't pass it on to anybody. So we've moved him over here. So number 4 is right here. And I've gone ahead and I've done that with all the appliques. Everything else I've gone through, matched my label to my applique and labeled all of them with my pencil. So once we've done that, we're going to get to where, I'm just reading my thing here really quick. Oh, also you want to get some thread scissors. Have some thread scissors handy as we start popping them out. And I think we can just get going on to the pattern now. So I'm just going to put this out of the way and get to my instructions. So for my Arctic Fox, we want to pre-wash all those fabrics that haven't already been pre-washed. Oh my, get this ugly thing out of the way. I think so dirty. And I'm going to cut my background. So on my Arctic Fox, I wanted to cut my 11.5-inch strip and then cut it to a 16.5. Now, if you have a kit, your piece isn't going to be a whole long strip. You're going to have a chunk big enough to cut your 11.5 by 16.5 piece. So I've already got that cut and ready to go. And then if you're doing the individual, you're going to cut your inner border, outer borders, and binding and just have those ready to go. You can always do this after the fact too. We're going to complete the center in the tutorial today. I'm not going to do any of the sewing of the borders. So if you need to, you can hold off, or if you want to, you can hold off on doing this step for now until you're ready to actually sew on your borders. But I just go ahead and get all my cutting done at once. And then you're going to want to trace all your appliques. No, you won't, because you have a laser kit. You don't have to do that part. So skipping step 3, moving on to step 4. I guess step 3, the one thing we've done instead of doing the tracing, we're labeling. So we are doing labeling everything. Now we're going to lay our applique pressing sheet. So if you don't have one of these, you're going to want one of these. Mine is old and dirty looking because it's about 20 years old, but it will last another 20 years, I'm sure. I have quite a few of them. This was like one of the first ones I ever bought, and it's 13 by 17. And if you look up applique pressing sheet, I'm sure you can find them online. I know most craft stores have them and most quilt shops will have them because a lot of folks like to do these type of raw edge applique these days. So they're around $20–25, I think, and you will use them over and over and over. And this is a really great starter size. I have an 18 by 20 that I really like for larger ones, but this 13 by 17 is one that I regularly use and it's perfect for today. So it's the size I recommend for beginners. And I actually don't recommend anything over 18 by 20 because when it gets that big, it actually starts to become difficult to use because it's sort of all over the place. And my huge one that I bought, I ended up cutting it into smaller pieces around this size so that I would have a bunch of smaller ones versus one enormous one to deal with because it was just too like ungangly to work with most of the time. Okay, so grab my layout guide. And I've noticed doing the video tutorials, this is always a pain, this part up here, because of where my camera is. So I'm going to try to get it to stay. There we go. That works. I've got to put something heavy up here to kind of hold it in place. Okay, so I'm going to now use the layout guide on this next part with my pressing sheets. So I also use a light table, and if you get into doing these, you might want to invest in a light table. The one I have here is 18 by 24, I believe. Hold on. Well, I don't have my thing. I'm pretty sure it's 18 by 24. And I know it's 24 this way. I'm pretty positive it's 18. There are smaller ones that are about half this size that are also a really good kind of starter size. And I think they're like 18 by 12 or something like that. And then there's like little ones that are like 8.5 by 11, like for paper size. But this is an awesome size if you get to do in a lot of them. The medium size one that's like the 18 by 12 is a really great size. And if you don't want to invest in a light table, you can stick a lamp under a glass coffee table. You can even tape this up to your window and then secure this with a little bit of tape and put it up against a window if you want. So any of those will work. I have done both of them actually. For a long time I used a glass table. until I got my light table. And there's lots of different light tables out there. So any of them, I like the flat one the best because it's easier. They have some that are at an angle for like drawing and stuff and tracing, but the flat ones are really nice when you're doing these things because then things don't move around so much. Okay, so we are going to lay our pressing sheet over the layout guide. And you see this is a great size because it lays right over everything. And then we are going to arrange the Arctic fox and the tree boughs before we put them on the background. So the Arctic fox is arranged in numerical order. And I'm just going to deal with him right now. We're not going to worry about tree boughs at all. So I'm going to get my appliques that deal with the Arctic fox. So now there's two things you can do for this. You can, this one just has a few pieces of Arctic fox. You can just pull them one at a time out, or you can pop all the numbers out now and arrange them off to the side in numerical order. Either way works. When I'm doing laser kits, a lot of the times, because of these really small pieces, I don't want to lose them. And so I often will just leave them in here, but sometimes it's a little more searching for the piece versus having them all ready to go laid out next to you. So I'm going to go ahead and just pop them out one at a time, but you might find me searching here and there for stuff. But I'm going to get all the pieces, all the colors that I know have the fox pieces in them ready for me. This one here has a lot of bow pieces in it too, but these ones down on the end are for the fox, and this guy's for the fox. So we're going to arrange him in numerical order. So 1 through, I think, my goodness, how many are in this guy? I see 34. I see a 35. Oh, I see a 39. Okay, so there's like 39 pieces. I think that's all. So yeah, there's a lot of pieces, but that's just what makes him look so lifelike, right? Detail. Okay, so I'm going to pop out piece number 1. And when I go to take the fusible off, I often just do this little fold deal, and the paper kind of keeps its crease, and the fabric will just sort of pop right off. So that's just one of the little tricks on how I do that. I actually didn't even really realize I did that until someone commented on, "What are you doing?" And I was like, oh, I don't know. What am I doing? But that is one of the easy ways to get that paper to release. So when I lay it down, a lot of the times I look for like an edge like this to follow. And so it's laying really perfectly right along that fur line, and just let the rest kind of fall because we're covering up a lot of this. So I can't even see where the end line is here, but I definitely know my fur line. So laid it up there. And now let's find piece number 2. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 2, I'm gonna look on my thing, and it is in this medium gray. Stick this label off to the side. So I'm just popping it out. So you just kind of give them a gentle tug. Now, if you ever have anything that holds really tight and doesn't want to pull out, don't start ripping on it, because sometimes you'll pull threads out of your applique, and you'll notice it on the light table. You won't notice it so much once the light isn't behind it, but you still just don't want to do that. It kind of, you know, it just leaves little gaps in your applique there. So have these thread scissors handy, and if you ever have anything that sticks, you clip it with your thread scissors. Also, sometimes when you pull things out, my mom is here making racket in the background. Anyways, if you pull things out, sometimes little threads will be hanging off too, like little hairs. And I will also use those thread scissors to clip those little hairs. Okay, so number 3 is in this darker gray. Oh, and see, on this one, I don't know if you can see, maybe you can see on there, there's a little thread sticking out, and I'm just going to clip that. So the way that the laser machine cuts, it's just little light pulses of this laser, and it's basically making just little perforations all the way around, and they're minuscule, so they're tiny. So you can't, I mean, if you look up really close, you can kind of see it, but occasionally, you know, a thread gets in a spot where it manages to not cut all the way through. And so sometimes, you know, threads will hang on, and sometimes those threads will not get cut at all. And so that's what's great having your little scissors handy. Okay, so 4 and 5. 4 is this white. And so when I do this, I'll hold on to the center kind of the applique, and I just sort of pull around it. And again, if you find a spot where it is really hanging on, don't just yank, but a gentle tug should release it. Okay, so just pulling. And then when I go to arrange again, I'm just making sure that all my little fur pieces are in the right place. Piece number 5 is again in this medium gray. Fold that little paper over, and if you see, I don't know if you can see that very well, but you see how the paper has stayed creased and folded, and then the fabric just pops right back flat, so it's easy to pull that paper off. Arrange my little tail. Okay, now, where were we at? 5? 5. Okay, so let me find 6. So if you ever want to look, and I have a hard time seeing the numbers through this sometimes, and sometimes, you know, a 6 looks like an 8, or a 9 looks like an 8 also. A lot of them looks like 8s. Maybe that's because I like the number 8. But if you're having a hard time finding them, put your hand on the pressing sheet and just lift it up, and oh, here's 8. Here's 7. Here's 6. Here's this next group. So this is the group I want to do next. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down. And I was on 6. So let me find most, I think all of them, yep, are in this medium gray, which is this color here. So here's 6. And that's right here. 7. 8. I'm going to put all the paper that you peel off will stick to you all the time. It's like staticky. It sticks to me all the time. And my clothes. 9. 10. And once in a while also, I just check yourself that you haven't bumped something, because sometimes you do that. Sometimes I've done that and I've been putting like a huge group of stuff, and then I realize that I bumped myself and I'm off, and maybe something over here is like way off. I just kind of put it sort of back where it's right and don't worry about it being perfect, unless it's like major off where it's like, wow, that's very noticeable that, you know, the fox is 3 inches up too high compared to the ground or something. But the fox is you're gonna be able to move him easy. But I guess I always try to tell people they're all nature projects, and nature's not perfect. And if your fox is seated a little bit differently than my fox, that's fine, because you have a different fox. They're not identical twins. They're just like brothers, cousins. So it's okay if your fox looks a little different than mine. Okay, that one I had a few little threads in there, so I was just snipping them off. 12. And also, if you put something down and you don't like where it's at, it's easy enough right now. That glue is just temporarily holding, and you can definitely lift things up and move them. So once something gets in place, if you don't like it at this point, you can definitely make adjustments. 14. And 15. Where's 15? I was just looking at it. There it is. Okay, so that's everything in his little back area. And now let me find where's 16 and 17. So 15, 16, where are you? I hate it when I can't find them. Oh, it's right here. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So we're working on this side of his face now. So 16 is one of these few pieces in this lighter piece that has a lot of the tree boughs in it. A few little threads sticking out, and sometimes you don't notice them at all, and other times you really notice them. So where to guide this, because a lot of it's going to be hidden, right? Right here in this peak and right up here are the edges of that applique. So I'm going to make sure that I have this little peak point, and this part up top is straight. So I'm gonna have to move it a little bit to the side. There we go. That's in line and that's in line, and there we go. So now 17 is in this medium gray. Just pull that out. And here, this is the top of his ear, and this is the edge, right? So we're gonna line up those edge little fur pieces. There you go. 18 is also in this tree bough, and the next one is not till we get to 39. I think it's like the last piece that goes in that one. So 18, now I'm getting a lot of layers here, so it's getting more difficult for me to see. Couple things. My light table is actually turned down, so it's not so bright for you guys. So if you're doing this at home, crank your light table up and get it as bright as you can. The other thing you can do if you're in a room that doesn't have a million windows like my room does, you can also turn off the lights in your room and close your window blinds. And if your room is dark and the only light is this light table, you're going to be able to see through much easier, especially multiple layers of fabric. Sometimes though, really dark ones, you're just not going to be able to see real well anyhow. So again, I'm going to put my hand here. I'm going to flip up and I see 18 is right here, kind of defining his nose and going up kind of, oh, and actually if I kind of keep my eye, I have it upside down, I think. If I kind of keep my eye on it, I can actually sort of see that line where it goes there. Okay. 19, I think that was part of his eye. It's getting to be tiny. Oh no, it's this tiny little piece, and I'm pretty sure it's white. It is. Little white piece. Okay. I was afraid that my glue came off, but it's fine. Okay. 19. So it's actually, it's not his eye, but it's like his eyebrow. Put it right up here, and if I have to adjust it, I can do that. So that's again, you can always, when it's harder to see and you're not sure if you're in exactly the right place, put it down, put the next piece on, and if it looks like, oh, this is a little weird, my eyebrow's in a little off position, well, then move it. So we've got 19 down. Now we're going to do 20, 21. Now that is your eye. So those ones are the black and this gold. Oops, I dropped one of them. Oh, I dropped 21. So the black goes first. Okay, so it kind of has a little bit of a hump up there that actually goes up, and I kind of just place it in there. And eyes are sort of important where they're positioned. So if you put it on here and you get finished and you feel like, I feel like my eye is a little wonky, you can always adjust it. You have all the ability to do that until you fuse everything. So don't feel like if you get it done and you're like, oh gosh, my eye looks weird. Well, then move it a little bit. So there we go. 21. Now he has just one eye creeping at you. It looks weird. Okay. It'll look better when you have the other eye. So 22, 23, 24 up here in his ear. I found 23. Where's 22? 22 is white. 23 is this dark gray. 24, where are you? 39. I have a 25. Okay, what's 24's shape? Oh, 24 is this long. I think that might be, yep, I didn't label it. It's right here. And I just forgot to label it. It's in the white, but that helps sometimes too. If you can't figure it out, look at what is the shape. And actually another thing, look at your picture. Oh, I can see right here. It's a white piece. Look for your white. Okay. So 22, sorry, 22. And I'm going to, again, lift this up, and I kind of can see the outline as I lay it down. I can see where that outline is. Even, it might be hard for you to see, but when I keep my eye in that position, as I lift it up and drop it down, it's sort of like the outline just kind of pops at me, where I can see long enough to know where to place it. Now this piece here, I've got like 3 layers already of fabric there. It's going to be harder to see. So I'm going to just go ahead and kind of set it in there, just eyeballing it. And then 24, the same sort of deal. And then when you get finished, if you want to check it, or you can even go like this, move it over, or you could even go like this and say, okay, I see how this little piece is supposed to be like right about here, defining that ear, and then move it back up, get it back aligned, and now you can move on. Okay, so what number were we on? 25. I'm just gonna get my guy back in place. Okay, 25, 26, 27. We're back down on here on the nose, and thankfully it's really light. It's white, so I can see really well. So 25. I'm just adjusting this a little bit. Okay. 26 is this dark gray. Oh, and also when you're doing that little fold move, bend it towards the paper. If you bend it towards the paper, the creases in the paper more sharper, I guess, and then it peels off easier. If you bend it towards the fabric, it doesn't give the paper that crease, so it doesn't always work as well. Okay. Oh, look, his little face. I love it when I'm making face or doing faces like this, because they kind of like start to show up, and it's like, there he is peeking at me. Oh, just like my puppy. I call my puppy Peeky because he always peeks like this on the stairs. You just see this much and he thinks you can't see him. This side we don't have any definition, but this side is like he's peeking around a tree or something. Okay, so 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. So we're kind of working now on this side of the face. 28 is a bigger piece. It's this medium gray. I think it's the last. Oh, no, we have some snowflakes in the medium gray, so hang on to that. Okay, so what I'm doing is I can see here, that is the definition of that edge, and I can also see up here the definition of that edge. So I'm just going to make sure those parts are in line and let the rest of this fall where it should. And you might see that this is the edge too, and it went right where it was supposed to. So that's one of the things with the appliques too. You don't want to try to force them. If you're forcing something, then you probably have it in the wrong place. So if I pick this up, as an example, so say I get this lined up, that's lined up pretty well. But if I drop it, hang on, like this. If I drop it and you see it's way off up here, this is lined up, that looks like it would be fine, but it's way off up here and it's way off up over here too. So even if you're like, but I have it in place and now I'm going to try to force it over here, well, I'm going to end up getting a bubble in here. So don't force. Line it up up here, and then let it just drop where it wants to go, and it should just lay exactly where it's supposed to. If it's not, you might need to just adjust a little bit. Okay, let me find 37 is, I'm gonna guess it's in here. Yep, it's in the white. So I can't see very well in there. So I'm going to lift it up and kind of look back down. I can see that it's sort of like right about like that. And again, if I bumped up my light table, I'd be able to see a little bit better through those, but it makes it harder for you guys to see. 38 is in here. And 39, we'll move that up a little bit. 39 is over here in this boughs, and now that's everything. The rest of this is for your tree boughs. So 39. Oh, I totally skipped a bunch of them, didn't I? Oh, I went into this. I'm such a nerd. Okay, so I went into his ear because I got excited, and I actually I skipped numbers. Where did I go? I went 28 and then I started doing 37. So I can't count. So thankfully it didn't matter. Sometimes it does, but this didn't matter. So let's go backwards from 28 and actually put 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and 36 down. And then because I was just thinking, wait a minute, I thought 39 was the last number. How did I get there? I have pieces missing. Oh, because I skipped about like 8 pieces. It doesn't matter. Sometimes it does. Don't do that on purpose because it does matter. It just happens that it didn't matter that time. My mom's here to witness it. It's great. Plus all of you.
Accurate when you plan these things.
Yeah. Well, like if I'm doing just his eye or just his nose and nothing else is laying on it, it won't make a difference. This part of his ear, nothing else is laying on it. So it didn't make a difference. But if I had skipped those and something was meant to go under it, then yes, it would have made a difference. It just happens that this time it didn't make a difference. Plus it just happens that when I'm videoing myself, I make mistakes and then everybody gets to watch. And then I even post it on the internet because I'm not going to redo this just so I do those numbers correct. Okay, so now we'll go to 31, 32. We're working our way back up to 37. Okay. 31 is right in here. 32. That's upside down, the right way. Okay, 33. Oh my goodness, these ones are these tiny ones. There we go. Okay, 33. Oh yeah, and it's right there, and I can actually see it through there. Okay, 34. So we're getting this eye put in. So now he's really going to look at you, and he's going to be complete because I already finished his ear. So the very last part we're going to see now is going to be his little eyeball. So the eyes are one of those things too with this guy. If it's off a little bit, it might look a little weird. So make sure that you kind of really check yourself. And if you feel like, oh, his eye looks a little weird or this one's a little too high, you can always pick up the black part of the eye, and the gold there in the middle is going to just come with it because it's just sitting on top of it, right? So you can pick it up. There, he's looking at you now. So I could pick this whole thing up with the black and be able to adjust it. So if I put it on and I thought, oh, that looks off, and it actually, when I put it back down, it is a slightly off, I can pick that up and just adjust it. Because the eyes are important. You do want to try to get those as perfect as you can. So now here's 36, and you would think I have 37, 38, 39 to go, but no, I don't, because I just did those ahead of time. So I'm actually finished after number 36 because I skipped. I won't skip when we do the bows. I'll try not to skip when we do the bows. I can't make any guarantees. Okay, 36 is up here. And that's it. So then I already did 37, 38, 39. And so our lovely little fox is done now. So I'm going to move on to do the tree boughs on the same applique sheet. It doesn't matter if the fox is in place. We're going to peel these up on its own. So if you move it, or if maybe you're using a sheet where you had the fox in the middle and you realize, oh shoot, I can only fit the boughs like if I go like this. That's okay, because we're going to peel them off later. So I'm just going to move this over. I'm not even worried about if the fox is in place. And we're going to work on the tree bough section now. So for the tree boughs, we're doing this in alphabetical order. So we're starting, let's see, let me find it. A, B, C, D, E, F. We're doing this whole section. Then we're going to do this whole section. Then we're going to do this section, and this one last. So we're kind of doing them in order so everything lays appropriately upon each other. Do not skip forward and do, I mean, you could do this section actually, honestly. But see, if you don't finish this section's going to lay over it. This section's going to lay over it. This section lays over both of those. So don't skip. Don't be like me. A, B, I normally don't skip. I think I got overexcited. I was working in that area and I just kept working in that area. Yeah, I was thinking about my little Peaky dog. And his name is not Peaky. I named him. What's hilarious is that my daughter named him Miko, and I started to call him Peaky. He's a Pomeranian Chihuahua because he would go up on the stairs, and we have this little open section on the stairs that looks like a little jail. It has bars on it, and it's to help heat get upstairs. And he would go up there and he would peek at me through the little jail. And then sometimes he'd come down the stairs also, and he would just like peek like that. Here's the stairway, and he would be like this. And he was peeking, and I would say, "What are you peeking at me? He's always peeking at me." And so I started calling him Peaky. And now almost everybody calls him Peaky.
And he has a food dish.
And my daughter made him a food dish yesterday because we do some ceramic stuff too. And she made him a food dish yesterday. And instead of putting his name, which I thought she was going to put Miko because that's the name she gave him, she put Peaky on it. And I was like, I won. I won the name because forever, his name's not Peaky. His name is Miko. And then she put Peaky on it. So I was like, I'm not even going to bring it up. If I bring it up now, she'll rip it off and she'll change it. Okay, so I'm not paying attention again. I'm on F. Okay, so there is bow. Oop. Back on there. And that lines up right at the top of that. So there's bow, the first bow. Now we're going to go up here. So E, F, G. Let's find G. G, H, I is in the blue, so is J, and actually so is K. This design actually did for my daughter because she really likes Arctic fox. She thinks they're so pretty. So when I was doing this, when I was coming up with Arctic animals to include in the Alaskan Arctic series, I thought, well, I have to do a fox because my girl loves the fox. And I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning, it is a series. There are actually 6 designs. So on the back of the pattern there shows all 6. We got a polar bear, a muskox, a seal pup, the Arctic fox that we're doing now, a walrus, and a caribou. So if you're doing the pattern, you notice that there's for the individual, but there's also instructions for making a 6-block quilt. That is this one. And if you're doing this one, you'll do the center and then you'll stop because we're going to combine them all and then put borders on separate. And don't buy this individual kit to do this big one. I have a big kit that's everything. Otherwise you're going to have a lot of extra border fabrics because this one actually uses a different lighter border of the snowflakes than the darker border snowflake that's on the big one. So anyways, okay, back to this. L. Down here to this bow, M is this aqua color, the snow shadows. In, we're getting into our spruce trees. You know, a few little threads that decided to stick out on those. Oh, also the little spruce boughs. And I'm just lining up the bottom of those boughs there. P. This one had a couple little threads. I'm just going to trim those off because when you have a lighter fabric like this and you have these little threads sticking out, when it goes over a real dark fabric like this dark green, you're going to see those little threads. So it's a good idea to go ahead and trim them off because they'll probably annoy you later, or they would annoy me. So this one covers both of these. So I'm just going to layer down. Oh, okay. Just looking, what is that one? But there's another piece that goes in there. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing something. Okay. Was that P? Yep. So I want to do Q, which is this gray. And this one goes in here. Okay. I just want to make sure always that I'm putting it in the right spot. Okay. Q. Oops, turn my light off. R. Normally I keep my power over here on this corner for my light box, but in order to reach the power thing and all the other stuff I have to hook up for videoing, I have to put it on the other side, and then I hit that all the time and turn my light box off. Okay. R. So now we're going to go to this group up here. STUVWXY. So over here to the spruce boughs again. S. T. U is going to be this dark green. We're getting very close actually to finishing this. V. Other little threads. Snip those little threads. W. X. I have a couple threads on this one too. I'm going to snip. Y is our, turn my light on and off that time. And that's already been bent from my packaging, so I don't even have to worry about peeling that paper off. It just comes right off. Y and okay, Z is down here. So Z, double A, double B, and that's it. Little thread. So this aqua apparently is the one that wants to have little threads. It's funny how they will do that. Certain colors will just do that more than others. And B, and that's it. So that's it for our spruce boughs, and our fox is all assembled. So great. Okay, so now that we've got everything assembled on our pressing sheet, now we can take our pattern and get it out of the way for the moment. Grab our ugly, dirty quilter's cut and press ironing thing, and we're going to just gently fuse these together into 1-2 groups. an Arctic fox group and a spruce boughs group. Although this piece is off by itself, that will actually have to peel up separately, obviously. And, oh shoot, my stupid iron has probably been asleep and not hot again. Okay, so when we go to do this fusing, one of the things I want to make sure while my iron heats up, I'll talk about. One of the things you want to make, excuse me, sure of is that this isn't the point where we're fusing it to the background. We're only gently warming up the glue to make everything sort of stick to each other temporarily now so that it's one big applique. So I don't want a hot iron. I'm not going to place heat on it for very long. So make sure your iron is at a medium to low setting at this point, and know your iron. My iron doesn't get very hot, so I have mine on a hotter setting, but that's only because it just doesn't get very hot. If you have an iron that gets really hot, maybe low is where you want to put it. If you have an iron that, you know, is regular heat, I guess, if there's a such thing, put it in the middle. So at this point, we don't want a lot of heat. We don't want to overheat the glue. So fuzz on my thing. And we aren't actually fusing right now. We're just sticking it all together. And while I did my spiel, my thing warmed up. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I got my iron on. I got some heat. It's not that bad. See, I can touch it. It's not going to burn me. And I'm just going to literally set it down and lift it up. Set it down and lift it up. Maybe one more time through the middle. Down and lift it up. That's all the heat I'm going to put on it for the moment. Do the same thing with these spruce boughs. Set it down and lift it up. And I got pretty much the whole main part in the middle there on that one. I'll do one more little down, up, and I didn't do this guy over here. So down, up, and I'm going to go one more time over the center face area of this guy because that had more of the little pieces. And that's it. So that's all the heat I want to put on this right now. Now, when I go to peel it up, if things are like all sticking to your pressing sheet, nothing seems to have stuck together, you may need to put a little bit more heat on it and go from there. But let it cool a minute, because if you try to peel it off when everything is warm, it can also not stick to each other then either, because your glue's all nice and warmed up right now. So I'm going to set it off to the side, grab my pattern, get this out of the way. And we're going to actually, I think we're going to start arranging, yes, onto our background. So I'm going to grab my layout guide again. My pattern out of the way here. Okay, put my weight on there. Okay, grab my background. And so onto the background, which is your 11.5 by 16.5 inch rectangle here. I'm going to, now it's kind of hard to see. I'm going to try to go ahead and lighten up my table and see if you can see it. Well, I can see it much better. I don't know how well you can see it in the video there, but I can see the lines much better now with my light table up. So I'm going to brighten it up a little bit just so that I can see, so I make sure I put things in the right place. So onto the background, we're going to arrange the following. First, we're going to do the tree boughs. Okay, so take my tree boughs off my pressing sheet. So first I'm going to take this one off, and I'm just gently peeling it up. And you see everything peeled up as one. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to arrange that. And on this too, you got a 1/4 inch seam allowance here. So if you arrange it and you don't want to worry about any of this sticking, this glue sticking to your iron, you can even arrange it in just slightly off the edge, because you're going to have a seam allowance there. So don't worry about that if it doesn't need to be perfectly against that edge. Now, peeling off all these pieces, I'm actually going to peel them off, kind of grabbing the sections and peeling up and away. Oop, and see, I had a piece stick. Okay, so that one, I'm actually going to lift up and I'm going to peel from this side, just enough that it stays where it's meant to stay, because everything else peeled off. And so it's loose, but it'll stay there. Now, if you wanted, you could have put some more heat there to get it to stick, but I'm not worried about that. I'm going to go ahead now and just arrange this. So this basically goes in the corner and around the edges, and I can see my lines, and it's laying right where it's supposed to. So beautiful. Okay, now I'm going to do my Arctic fox. Make sure everything's in place. Move this over here. So now I'm going to peel the Arctic fox off. So I'm going to start up in the corner of his face, and I'm just going to gently peel down. His body is one big piece, and the part that sometimes wants to come off is his tail, because it's only attached by this little bit of fabric here. So just going to grab from that area. See, his tail is wanting to come up. I'm just going to grab from that area and pull up. Now, if his tail comes up and doesn't want to stick, which is what it's doing to me now. It did this to me when I made them before too. Oh, there, it's stuck in one tiny little spot stuck. But if it comes off, you can always just pull the tail off to the side and stick it on separate. That's fine too, which is what I've done in the past because it often wanted to come up because it's such a small area that's attached there. So now I'm going to arrange my fox. So I'm just looking through the fabric onto the background, make sure my background is centered, put my fox down. And then the tail, because it's only stuck right there, I'm just going to make sure the tail goes where it's supposed to. There we go. And if your tail had fallen off, that would be easy enough. Like if I pulled this up, there's no tail. I could have easily just said, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to worry about applying more heat. I'm just going to grab the tail on its own and stick it back on there. See, all done. Okay, so now what's next? The snow foreground. So that is this piece here, and it has a little crease in it also from the folding. I didn't want to iron it out. I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to peel that paper off. And the snow foreground just lines up right with your bottom edges there. So where that crease is, I'm just going to kind of press it, and as I iron it, that will go out. Okay, and then finally your snowflake. So you have this one beautiful aqua snowflake. Teal, I guess it's teal, it's dark. And just gently peel the paper off the back. And it's right here on his body. Now, if you can't see through there, you can put it any way you want. This is kind of how it's supposed to be. But if you put yours on and it was like this, that's okay. If you put it like this, that's okay too. Because I'm doing this and it's supposed to be a sample, I'm going to try to do it the way it's supposed to. But if your snowflake's tilted a little bit, that's okay. And every one of these edges is essentially the same. So whichever one's pointing, just point them up and down, whichever one you want. It won't matter which one is pointing up and down. And then don't forget, you have two little snowflakes in this medium gray that you want to pop out. Be real gentle with these. They're very tiny. They have very delicate little pieces. So one of them goes over here. Eva drew that. Oh no, did Rylan draw that? Oh yeah. Evangelion.
Yep.
We find sometimes on our fabric boards. Here, let me see, I'll show.
This is from the store.
My family owned Kenai Fabric Center forever, and when I was a kid, I used to do a lot of beautiful art, and this is my daughter's gorgeous art on a fabric board from when she was little at the fabric store, and here's my niece Jillian's. And then, is this one? I don't know whose this one is. Could have been either's. Yeah, they all look like the same artist, so I'm not sure. But anyhow, sometimes we find these on boards around here inside a fabric board. My mom just found that one. Eva will follow in my footsteps someday. Okay, and then the last little snowflake goes up here. Okay, so that's everything. So now I'm going to go ahead and just get this all out of the way. Move this out from behind. And so now what we need to do is we now need to fuse everything. So I've gently fused it all together, just enough to hold it in place to put it on here. But now we need to do the permanent bond fusing, right? So we want to do this with steam. This stuff is called steam-a-seam. You need steam. In my opinion, you need that steam to get it to really stick well. So if you have a steam iron, you can use a steam iron. This is a steam iron, but it spit irony water and yucky minerals out on one of my quilts one time. So I don't trust this iron. So what I use instead of the steam from my iron is a spray bottle with water in it. And that's what I do to get the moisture into the steam-a-seam glue and to create the steam that I need to make it fuse really well. So before you go to do that part, we're just going to want to apply a little bit of heat, again, to warm that glue up. Just down, up, down, up. Do not run your iron across this right now. You don't want to accidentally catch an applique. Like if I went shoo across this part could catch and roll up and stick to my iron. And that has happened to me before. So don't do that. It will ruin your applique. I promise you, you will not be able to fix it. So up, down, up, down. And we're just warming that glue up, and we're basically getting everything to lay flat and kind of adhere slightly to the background, so that now that it's in place and I know it's going to stay where it is, now I'm going to want to do the steam. So if you're using a steam iron, what you're going to do is you're going to blast it with steam, holding it about an inch from the surface or less, and hit it with steam for about 5 or 6 seconds. And then you're just going to put it down straight on there and let the dry heat evaporate all that moisture. And that gets that glue to just get all in there and do its thing and get that permanent bond going. If you're using a spray bottle, of which I am, we're going to spray the area and then apply the dry heat and let it create its own steam and evaporate. One thing to note here is you don't want your iron too hot. I have a lot of really light colors in this one, and if your iron is too hot, you will see some little white dots show up in your lighter colors especially. That is because the glue is, I call it getting fried. It's like it gets too much heat on it and it doesn't like melt in between the little dots of it and fill in itself. And it ends up kind of giving this little bit of translucent look through the fabric, and it's not real pretty. So if you notice any of that at all, turn your iron down because your iron is too hot, and then give it a few minutes to cool off a bit before you keep going. So I'm going to do the whole surface from the top, and then I'm actually going to flip it over, and I'm going to also steam from the back, because in some places on here we have many layers of fabric and steam, right? Like his ear here has at least 3, maybe 4 layers right in this area. So I make sure that that steam gets all the way to the background layer that's against this fabric, the background. I'm going to go ahead and steam from the front, steam from the back, and that way I know that it's penetrated through all the layers. So if you have a steam iron, I'm going to do the sound effects. We're going to pretend we're steaming here, holding it within the inch to 1.5 inches of the fabric, and I'm just going to go and set it down and let it evaporate for about 8 to 10 seconds on the evaporating part. I don't have I do have a steam iron, but I don't trust this steam iron. So I'm going to spray it pretty well. I get it pretty damp with my water. And then I'm just going to set it down. And I'm just going to let it go for about, again, 8 to 10 seconds. And then I'm going to move on to the next footprint. And I lift it up. Check that I'm not seeing any of those little dots, of which I am not. Good. And I'm going to go on to the next part. And I'm just going to keep doing that all across the entire surface. One iron footprint at a time. And that way I know everything is getting really good steam. So once I'm done, I'll want to do it from the reverse. I'm not going to do that part on camera today because it's kind of boring, but I will also talk a little bit about quilting, binding, and if you ever need to wash these while we're doing this. So if you ever need to wash these, think about what I'm doing right now. I'm getting this wet and then I'm applying heat to dry it. So if you have to wash a wall hanging for whatever reason, somebody splatted spaghetti sauce on it or something, go ahead and do a delicate wash. I would recommend a hand wash in like the sink. And then I would just let it hang dry. Don't put it in your dryer. The reason you don't want to put it in your dryer is because your dryer is taking something that is damp, right? Like what I'm doing right now. And it's applying heat to dry it, which is what I'm doing right now. What happens in your dryer is it's going to essentially like re-steam all of your glue, which can also make it release from the background. So you don't want to put it in a washer because you might risk having some of your appliques peel off during the drying cycle. Or not in a washer, sorry, in a dryer. So hang dry, hand wash in the sink if and when you might need to dry these. Now, when it comes to quilting something like this, I don't like changing my threads out a lot. So a lot of the times what I'll do is I just use a clear thread and I actually go around and I stitch all around the background, and I don't actually stitch on the appliques themselves. So I would just, if this was my stitch, I would start over here. I would just stay within about 1/8 of an inch of the background around the applique, all the way around, all the way down, and go all the way over here, and then around all of these. Really? And then that way I don't actually do any stitching directly on the appliques. If you're stitching with a clear thread on a white or these lighter colors, it's going to leave little holes, and because your thread is clear, that's what's filling the holes, and it ends up looking like little black dots all over it. So don't use clear thread to stitch on the appliques. If you really want to stitch on the appliques, and I know some people just don't trust the fusible, that's fine, but use a matching colored thread. With a wall hanging, I don't worry at all about stitching on them. I have wall hangings that are from when I first started designing from 2007 that have never had any issues with things lifting, and they don't get washed a lot. They don't get moved around a whole lot, but they have been outside in weather where it's been warm and then cold and then warm and then cold year after year. They've also gone on trunk show tours and been hung up one place and brought back down and shipped off to the other, and all of them have stayed just as they were when I first fused them. I've never had trouble, and you can test them like this on your edges to see if it's lifting, fuse it some more. But if you do this and nothing's lifting, you're good to go. So I do not worry about stitching on them, but I don't wash them a lot. If you're doing a quilt, and that's a different project, of course, then I definitely do recommend doing some stitching with a matching color thread on top, because a quilt is going to get a lot more love. It's going to need to be washed, and you are going to have some issues over time where the glue is going to start to lift. And that's just because, you know, in the end, it is just glue. It's not going to be as firm as a thread stitching it down is going to be. And then when you go to put your borders and your binding on, if you need help with those sort of things, I always say go to your local quilters and your local quilt shops. They are great at helping folks with that kind of basics. And so everything on mine is going to be 1/4 inch seams. I've got all of my cutting instructions here on how you do it. And when it comes to the quilting, we've gone over that, but I do have on my tips page some step-by-step instructions how I do quilting with my clear thread. And I also have a step-by-step on how to do your binding. So it's not a video tutorial, they're just photos and they go by the steps, but they're definitely helpful if you're not sure what to do and you aren't able to get other assistance. So the center is done, and that's all we're doing today. The rest of it I'll finish later, but this will be our finished project. And I hope you guys enjoyed this and come back and see some more. But now that you're kind of learning the steps, I'll tell you they're almost the same for everything. So if you watched a few, you're going to go, oh, okay, so I put this together numerically, or this one I put together alphabetically, and then I fuse it, and maybe I need a pressing sheet for some of them, and maybe I don't. I do it right on the background. But basically, it's the same process over and over. And once you've done it a few times, you don't need any more help, because it's pretty simple. And for a lot of people, they say it looks so hard, it looks really detailed, but it really isn't that hard, and it's sort of like putting a puzzle together. And so I hope you'll try it, and I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you.